Good morning, Jessup. Like Ryan said, my name is Courtney. I oversee local and global outreach here at the university, and I'm trying really hard not to fall off the stage right now because I didn't realize how big of a step I took. But we're so excited that you guys are here this morning. Let's be honest, we know a lot of you are here because you're trying to get those 20 chapels by the end of the semester. Can I get an amen? Hallelujah. Amen. We believe in you. God's going to do it. Won't he do it? Bernie Bernstein. But we are excited that you're here this morning. We don't think it's by accident. So we are just looking forward to sharing what God has put on our hearts and allowed us to experience, hoping that it will bless and encourage you. But before we get started with the panel, I just want to briefly talk about why on earth we send out teams like this. If you're new to Jessup or new to Jesus, it might be an odd concept to think about raising money to fly halfway around the world or down to Bolivia if you're Yvette, and to tell people about this guy named Jesus. And there's two reasons that we go. The first reason is that because each and every one of these panel members, and many of you in this room, know and have experienced the life transformation that happens when you put your faith in Jesus Christ. We are not trying to push a religion. We're not trying to push an agenda. We have just experienced something awesome, and we want to go tell others about it. Nobody forced me to love In-N-Out Burger. I had it, and I said, yeah, that's for me. Same thing with Jesus, but like way better than In-N-Out Burger. So that's the first reason we go, is because we just want others to know about Jesus. If you don't know him, we would love to chat with you and to tell you about who he is. So stop by outside after chapel. We'd love to share that with you. But secondly, there are currently 3.1 billion people on earth who don't know Jesus. And the vast majority of those people don't know him because they don't even have access to the story of Jesus in their language. So these people, and a lot of you in this room and on campus who aren't here today, decided that they want to do something about it this summer, and they were going to go and they were going to tell others about Jesus. So today, a lot of you in here were supporting these teams. You were reading the blogs. You prayed over them last April at Commissioning Chapel. You even donated financially to help them get there. So today, we just want to say thank you. This is a way of us being accountable and sharing the stories that God did in and through these teams. I wish we could have everybody who went overseas up here, but that's 80 people and chapel's only an hour, not 8 years, so we have these people to represent. So I'm done talking. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. If you could briefly say your name, not briefly, you could say your whole name, but your name, who you are at Jessup, and where you went and what you did this summer.
Hi, how's it going? My name is Spencer Slater, and I am a Assistant Residence Director in Tiffin, and I'm also the Community Life Coordinator. And I went to Russia over the last summer, and it was fantastic.
My name is Fritz Moga. I just realized as I'm starting my 18th year, I now have worked here as long as some of our freshmen have been alive. First time ever. So, I teach youth ministry, Bible, and some other things, and I was able to go to India this summer.
My name is Clay. I am a junior here at Jessup, and I'm also on the women's soccer team, and I went to India this summer.
Hi everyone, my name's Kylie. I'm a senior here at Jessup, and I had the privilege of serving in Cambodia this year.
Hi, I'm Ben Eisenberg. I am a senior at Jessup also, and I'm also the business manager for student government, and I also got the opportunity to go to Russia this summer.
Hi, I'm Yvette. I play for the women's soccer team, and I was blessed to go to Bolivia this summer.
Hi, I'm Bree. I served in Honduras, just in case you guys didn't understand. I went to Honduras this last summer. I am a sophomore. That's it, I guess.
Hi, I'm Cody. I'm Christian leadership major, senior year. What else do you want from me? Is that good? Oh, China. I went to China. I know what I did, I promise.
Cody didn't actually go on any team. He just wandered up here, and we didn't have the heart to tell him to get down. So Cody's just up here for fun. We had one more team. We had a team that went to Romania. They couldn't be here today, but there's information on that team and all of these other teams right outside, actually. So thank you guys for being here. I'm going to pose a question, and then two or three of you are open to share and pass the mics around, and we just love to hear what God put on your heart. Bree's going to do this whole thing in Spanish, so if you don't speak Spanish, you're not going to know what she's saying. So good luck. Just kidding, Bree. First question, why go on a global outreach trip? Why did you guys go?
Yeah, so I think short-term missions kind of accomplish 3 different goals, and the first 2 involve the way that God works through you, and then the third one's how it works in you. So I think when you go on short-term missions, like obviously you're going to go serve people, and God's going to use you to serve that community that you're visiting. But then also He's going to use you to minister to the other people on your team. And throughout this year, you'll be doing training with them and doing different team building things, and you're really going to have to rely on one another. And the last thing is you're going to come back changed. So no matter which mission trip you go on, God's going to do crazy things through you, and you're going to see Him work in new ways. So you're ultimately going to be changed by it. And those are 3 exciting things.
Just, you get like a ton of spiritual life credits, if I'm being completely honest.
Yes, hallelujah.
So just that alone is a really good reason, but spiritual reasons too.
I got my spiritual life credits too. I don't want to over spiritualize. I love to go. I love to travel. I love to serve. But I prayed because I don't want to do any of that unless God is calling me to do that. So for me, that really, especially this year, became that. I just prayed, God, and I let doors open to me. I said, if you want me to even consider, then have some things happen. So for me, it was really a matter of prayer first.
All right, that's it. You're dismissed. Thank you. Now, could you share maybe one of your biggest challenges, either getting to the field or while you were on the field, and how you overcame that?
I'll go first. So I'm an introvert, and for India, our kind of the trip was street evangelism, so just going up to strangers and telling them about God. And for me, I barely start conversations with my friends. So to go in a place that's really crazy, there's a lot of chaos there, like that was really nerve-wracking for me. So the way I overcame that was just prayer. This is a trip I was really excited about, and I really wanted to step out and be challenged. So I really just prayed that God would help lead me through those conversations. But also it helped because as teams, we knew our strengths and weaknesses. So for Fritz and Mandy and Ryan, my leaders, they knew that I'm more timid, so they would pair me up with someone who could start the conversation, and then I could jump in and tell a story from the Bible. So by the end of the week, they knew that I was ready to start conversations myself, so they paired me with someone who was more timid, so then I was able to initiate those conversations by the end of the week.
So I'm an extrovert. You haven't, met me. I really loved it there. So my challenge was actually coming back. Your girl did not want to come back. I got off that plane and I was like, yo, Americans, like, ugh. But even though I'm an American, like, I didn't want to come back. I made so many friends, so many deep, just really, really deep connections with people. So coming back was really hard. I came back and I was like, I just want to be playing soccer with them right now. Like, I don't want to be here in the airport eating Chinese food. And so the way I overcame that is that God showed me the beauty in being different. There's a reason why we are different. There's a beauty in the fact that we speak different languages, that we are from different places. And taking that into account helped me come back and just settle in and realize that, there is beauty in having different places to go to and living in different parts of the world.
I'd say that the language barrier is one of the biggest challenges that we experienced in Russia, especially in Russia because a lot of the social orphans we worked with there are from outlying countries bordering Russia, which means they don't even speak Russian, so our translators couldn't understand them either. So when you have 15 kids babbling at you and your translators don't really have any idea what they're saying, it can be difficult to get the message across. So you really just need to learn to speak to them through action rather than through words. And that was something that we had to learn over there.
So in China, there's just a huge spiritual gap that we were having to deal with. And example of that is when we went over there, our goal was to do like intentional evangelism or friendship evangelism. We had to build up relationships with them first, before we could even start talking about God. And even then, we had to be really careful how we were doing it and like who we were talking to. Like we had to make sure like we weren't talking like someone on student government who would like then go and like rat us out. And it just got to the point in which on the first day, all of us thought like, this isn't gonna work. No one wants to talk to us. No one wants to like start up these relationships, because we would go and begin a conversation and then we'd slowly work towards spiritual stuff. And they're like, no, I don't do that. And then it would shut down and then got awkward. But so that was like extremely difficult, is like trying to transition into spiritual conversation in a way that was fluid and good and still working.
Thanks for suffering through those hard moments, guys. Thankfully, God showed up in all of them, so that's awesome. Except for Bree, she still doesn't want to be here. So, can you share maybe a super impactful experience or just something that really hit you while you were there?
So for us, one of the biggest experiences for me, during the first couple of days, we were doing a construction project, tearing down the old home of a mother and her, I don't even remember how many kids, single mother, having a really hard time. But yeah, we had to take down the house that she was living in, which wasn't really a house. It was more of just like a metal shack that was just rotting away. So as we were doing that, we were also working on constructing a new home for her, much more substantial, obviously. But as we were removing the old pieces of metal and the old rotting boards, we weren't just trashing them. Like, our team saw them as like worthless. We can't do anything with this. But what was most impactful for me was we were carrying those boards across the street and laying them in front of just a tent that another family was living in. So like, what we saw as something that was worthless and broken, another family so greatly appreciated it because it was something that they were just so thankful to have because it was because of their living situation. So
I would say, I've heard these stories before, but I've never heard this myself. As Clay said, our goal was just walking on the streets or in the malls and approaching people and starting that conversation about Jesus. And we were told and taught, we might only have 2 minutes, you might have 5, you might have an hour. There was many times you just had a couple minutes. And so we would go right for this, either our story, our kind of conversion or life story, or the whole thing of Jesus to resurrection. And we would pause at the end and we'd say, what did you think about this story? Or what have you heard about this Jesus? And again, I'd heard this in stories. I'd never heard it myself. I heard 2 people say from their lips, I've never heard of this Jesus you speak of. Never heard. And I've been a Christian a long time, and yet this gospel message is more and more important. I'm going to preach for just 30 seconds.
Preach.
I heard yesterday that in Syria, thousands and thousands, I can't even remember the number, 300, some crazy amount of thousands of people died in September, mostly civilians, from all that is going on in that country. And I realized of those thousands and thousands of people, there's a good chance most of them have never heard about Jesus. So this message we have to share is more important today than it's ever been, and it must be done now. We must share the message of Jesus. And that's probably the first time in my life it has been so crucially impacted to me about this.
So I'm not going to preach to you guys because it's not my thing. So I had the privilege of translating a whole sermon. I'm used to translating. At my home church, it is all in Spanish, so if I take anyone that doesn't speak Spanish, I have to translate. But I've never translated with a pastor in front of everybody, and I had to do that. It was honestly amazing because the person I was translating for is actually a father to orphans. So the program I worked with, they pick 2 people, a man and a woman, to raise orphans that they bring home. So he's one of them, like a nobleman who is raising orphans as his own and showing them what it means to have a father and what it means to have a leader in a household. I absolutely love him. He's an amazing guy. He plays soccer very well as well. That doesn't make him amazing, but it is a plus. And when I was participating in this VBS, so it's just, sermon, games, praise and worship, he told me that the importance of reaching these kids can impact the entire country, and I had never thought of that. I thought about it, just a little bit, but the way he told me just like gave me a completely different perspective. He told me that you can never change an adult's habits. That's something that they build over time. That's something that someone matures with, but you can influence a child's outlook on life. And that's basically what his goal was, to influence all the children that were coming into this VBS, to influence how they view their situation, whether they're living under a tent, whether they're living under like a tree. It doesn't matter, God still loves them. It doesn't matter, they're still capable of leading the country one day. And that really, really impacted me.
In Bolivia, our main focus was to do soccer clinics for kids. And so, day one out there with a more impoverished area called Alto Cochabamba, the kids had, Alto Cochabamba.
Yes, Lord.
The kids had, just a dirt, ratted soccer ball that they were just kind of kicking around. And then we brought out our, big soccer bags, and, their faces just immediately, lit up because it was that's a real soccer ball. They were so excited. So, to see their faces light up for something that we just, yeah, it's a soccer ball, I have, a bunch of those. But they just, were in love with this, this brand new ball that they got to play with. And we just take that for granted here because it's nothing out of the ordinary to see a normal soccer ball. But those kids absolutely loved it. And so just to see their faces light up and just to know that even though I play with that every day, it's a soccer ball, but they were just absolutely enamored with it. So to see that something so insignificant to me can be something so significant to them, that was really eye-opening. So it was cool to see.
So before I went to Russia this past summer, I had actually lived in China for 2 years as a missionary, and before going to Russia, I was kind of thinking, how much of a difference can you make in just 2 weeks of hanging out with kids and not even speaking their language? And the answer I came to find is you can make a big difference. But what was really impactful for me was actually the last day we spent with the kids in the orphanage. There's a little boy, his name is Hadoidad, which was, we couldn't say for a long time. But a lot of what we did was inside the classroom, but on the last day we got to go outside and play. And for 30 minutes, I was just trying to say goodbye to this kid, and he was just latched onto my neck and wouldn't let go forever. And it was just surprising to me that he felt so close to me in such a short time of just 2 weeks of hanging out with him. And then another boy came up at the end and said something. I didn't know what it was at the time, but later our field worker basically said that this little 5-year-old boy basically said you're my new dad. So it was pretty impactful to me because I was dang, in 2 weeks without even speaking language, but just loving on these kids who don't have parents and don't feel loved. They got to experience, I think, God's love, and it was really impactful. So that was fun.
So on the first day, Jacob and I met a guy named Jack. And Jack literally introduced us to everyone that we were going to speak to on the rest of this trip. And Jacob went off and started meeting up with all those other guys, and I consistently kept meeting with Jack. And on one of the last days in which I had spent so much time with Jack, and on one of the last days, he opened up about how he lost a family member and how much that hurt him. And it's he started talking about how he couldn't even look at his body when he had died. He felt so he felt horrible about the fact that he was never going to be able to see his uncle again. And then I was listening, and I just told him, it's have you heard about Christianity? Have you heard about Jesus? And he goes in and he starts talking about how he had a family friend through his uncle who knew him, who knew about Jesus and talked to us about all the time. And he stopped, and in that moment, he's like, I just wish I could see my uncle again. And I looked at him and I told him, it's if you take a moment and look at Jesus and really try to get to know him, you might actually have that opportunity. And then he paused and sat and thought about it, and then he's like, I'll think about it, Cody, thank you. And that was it. And it was simple, but it was good. And I don't know. And that's one of the hardest things is like, I don't know what's going on in Jack's life anymore. I don't know if he's using that information, but it's like the seeds are planted and God is working and he's moving in there. And it's like having the full hope and understanding that God is going to do his will and like trusting in that.
Last question, guys. What would you say to someone who is maybe sitting in the room or watching this later and is wrestling with the idea of going? Maybe they're thinking, oh, it's too expensive, I don't have time, you can't make that much difference in 2 weeks. What's something that you would say to somebody who's considering going overseas through global outreach or through something else, but they have some doubts?
I would say go out and spread the word because you'll get a new perspective on the world. One of closed-mindedness's greatest threats is travel, being able to see other cultures, see other people's perspectives, and also you just get the opportunity to spread the love of God to other nations, and ultimately that's going to be what ushers in the return of Christ. So it's one of the greatest callings that you can choose to follow.
So I think as Americans, we definitely live in a bubble. And to be able to go overseas and see what the global church is achieving is incredible. But as a part of Team India, we got to go to a Hindu temple, a Muslim mosque, and then a Catholic church. And to see people praying and giving everything they have to a statue was heartbreaking. So also, I would say, as a Christian, how many opportunities do we get to say, God, my life is in your hands, my safety, my health, what I'm doing over here is completely up to you. So to be able to trust God and be challenged is a huge thing.
Yeah, just speaking to the young men in the audience, we need more guys on the mission field. That's just the bottom line. I think 20% of unmarried missionaries are women, and then even at Jessup, most of the campus is girls, but we just need more guys to go. So if you're considering it as a guy, like check it out and come, and especially places like where the culture kind of is like doesn't respect women as much. Like there needs to be like guys on those trips with those girls to get them in and help them in certain situations where like people will just like brush off women, right? So if you're a guy and you're considering it, like understand that like we really need you. So come at least check it out and see if there's a ministry that you're called to.
And I'll end where I started is pray and just see if God's calling you. Really, don't walk out of this room without at least saying, God, is there something there for me? Just ask him that and see what he'll do with it.
All right, so let's be real. The devil does not want to see you succeed. He doesn't want to see you do it. So just do it. Like, go, Nike, just do it. Like, be sponsored. Get out there in the field. It's worth it. I saw a lot more than I would have ever seen just walking around campus. Your girl doesn't have money to spend, okay? I'm not just pulling out, $3K, just, yeah, let's go. Like, I got you. No, I don't have money to just spend like that. And honestly, financial problems didn't occur. It just doesn't happen. Once you got a team going, they have you, they have your back. Once you have leaders, they have you, they got your back. They'll do whatever it takes to get you on that field. You just have to do it. And at the end of the day, you're gonna take a lot more than you will leave. You're gonna come back completely transformed. Whether you like it or not, you're gonna come back with a lot more lessons, a lot more things to share, and it's just gonna be more impactful than you could ever believe.
I think the blessing of serving overseas, like, it's truly indescribable. It's changed my life completely. And not only sharing God's word in another country and sharing his love, that was such a big part of the blessing, but I can't tell you how emotional of an experience it was when we got to worship with some of the people from the ministry that we were working with. They obviously spoke a different language than us. We were all singing the same song, though, and hearing the different languages coming off of all of our lips, we were all worshiping the same God. Like, we may be separated by land and water, but we're all his children and we're all connected together and we're all just one big family. So
The unique opportunity that I had, I got to speak, like I speak Spanish, so going to Bolivia, I was one of the only people on our team to understand. And there was one woman, she was a little old lady, like literally this tall. She had one tooth. Like she was so cute. And she like made food for us every night, and she was constantly asking me like, what can I do to make sure everyone eats, like everyone likes the food. And like we were just so appreciative, like she was making us food, like, and it was good. But she was like, I loved her, like she was like the best. And then afterwards, when we were leaving, just her prayer, like I understood it because I speak Spanish, but I don't know if any of our other girls got it, but like her emotion and her love for just our sheer presence of being there and trying to help those kids in that moment was just beautiful. And she was crying, so then our girls were crying, even though we don't even speak Spanish. And it's just like, you can see that sheer appreciation that that woman had for us. And just to know that we were being so used in that moment, to be God's hands and feet, and just to go forth and just show those kids how we want to love them, because that's how Christ loves us. And we don't know, that's the hard part, not knowing how the kids are or what's going on in their lives, but just being able to just be in that moment with them and love them, because that's what they need. Because we don't know how much love they get other than that moment that we're with them, but that moment that we're with them can make a difference. So just being able to just go out there, like you never know what's gonna happen, but I feel like all of us are just like so blessed beyond words, because we were able to go and just serve and just have God use us in ways that we didn't know we could be used. So.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Can we give them a round of applause? Thanks for sharing your story and going. They're going to exit the stage now with their chairs, because we like to carry our own things around here. So, but honestly, guys, the reason that missions exists is because worship is absent in other parts of the world. In people's hearts, they are not worshiping God, they don't know Him, they're not following Him. So the whole reason, the whole point of missions is to have other people join us in worshiping God. So today we're going to close chapel by worshiping God. We're going to spend time honoring His name, giving Him the praise that's due. And we also want to challenge you guys that if you feel called to serve overseas, I know there are some of you sitting in this room right now that your hearts are burning and you're just wanting to jump up from the chair and say, okay, yes, I want to go. We want to talk to you. So we have a table, a giant booth, you can't miss us. It's set up right outside where we're going to be talking about the teams that we're sending out this coming summer 2018. And we would love to talk to you. Some of the team leaders are even going to be out there so you can meet them and ask them questions. You can get information, but we just want to meet you. We also have some stuff to give away for you too if you stop by. So we encourage you to stop by, just get info. It can't hurt. You never know what God is calling you to.